Good evening. It is now 6:03, and I welcome you to the Community Develop Committee meeting. I am the chair, Louis Washington. Today's meeting is being recorded and will be available on the city's website. Thank you very much for joining us today. Start with the roll call. We have Councilmember Murphy here, Councilmember Johnson. We have Mr. Mayor here, Mr. Mayhew, and I think we're all accounted for. Okay. I'm a little out of order today. Next, we will, next, we will move to our first item of regular business, which is to approve the agenda. Any questions on the agenda this evening? Mr. Mayor.
If it would be acceptable to committee, just because I have to leave at 6:30, if it would be possible to take item number 3 before item number 2. It's a fairly quick item, but if that would be
Combined
okay.
code amendment
Correct,
before item number 2?
correct.
Okay.
If that would be acceptable.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, we'll make that correction. Okay, so agenda's approved. We will allow at this time, we will provide time for residents to provide public comment. Is there anyone here today that wishes to make a public comment? Okay. Seeing no one. We'll move to the next item, which is the next agenda item, which is to approve the minutes dated June 1st, 2026. Any comments on our minutes from the last meeting? Okay, if there are no comments. Oh, sorry, Councilmember Johnson.
Just one thing about when a member of a committee is absent, typically, even from the committees, typically we excuse them, I think, and I didn't see that noted, but I thought I remembered that we did that.
My absence?
Yeah, oh, exactly. So I wonder if that's something that we could add in.
Did you want to add some color to that, Mr. Mayor?
If you'd like, we can just have the city clerk check the recording.
Yeah.
And then make an adjustment. So the only thing is if you may want to have these minutes come back to you in 2 weeks so you can see if indeed an adjustment was made.
Okay.
Because in the event it didn't get handled, you may want to make some other decision. So if you'd like, if you just refer those back to administration, we'll bring those to you in 2 weeks and we'll address that topic.
So then just for the record, we won't be approving the minutes for June 1st, 2026. We're going to refer them back to administration. We'll take a look at them next meeting.
Should be pretty quick. It should be right at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. So we are not, just for the record, we're not approving minutes dated June 1st, 2026. We'll defer that to the next meeting. Thank you, Mayor. Okay. And so approval of minutes and then the agenda bill. So we are going to take a look at sign code amendment. We'll take a look at that first, and I'm gonna, please, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, so if I could, Council, with Director Davis being on vacation, I get to sit in for her. With Director Davis on vacation and no city administrator, I get to sit in. So as would normally happen, the presentation tonight is going to be given by our associate planner, Allison Kirk, who you know. And with that, here she is.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Was that, am I doing that?
You're doing.
Okay, sorry, I forgot that we're doing sign code amendment. The topic on sign code amendment is that our sign code, this is what regulates things like yard signs in the city, hasn't been looked at for quite some time, about a decade, I think, since it was last updated. And during the intervening time, case law has developed. And in fact, also with respect to political signs, there is some guidance from under the RCWs about what is permitted for required to be permitted for candidates and ballot measures. All of these developments have not been incorporated into our sign code. So with the appearance of signs that could be seen as being of a political nature related to the BES proposal in nearby unincorporated King County, because of concerns I had that we not violate First Amendment rights, I actually instructed the staff not to stop enforcing our sign code, and then asked the legal department to look into, is our sign code compliant with case law and state law, or do we need to make adjustments? That advice has come back from the legal department saying that no, there are in fact problems with our enforcement. My understanding, which was that, as I just sort of explained, that the code might be dependent, or the rules might be dependent on the type of sign. Turns out that's actually not correct. It has to do with the location of signs. So a broad concept, as I understand it, which is there are areas in your city which you can designate for, so I'm probably going to get the wording wrong, but for expression of First Amendment rights, and you designate areas and not content. So we can't regulate content. We can regulate location. So therefore, our code needs to be updated for that. With that in mind, the process for updating our code is that goes to the Planning Commission. That's required by state law. They'll hold a public hearing. They will then formulate a set of recommendations to you, the City Council. It'll come through this committee, but then to the full council, at which point you'll hear their recommendations, and then it'll be up to you to make ultimately a decision, which could be in accordance with their advice, partially in accordance, or completely different than their advice, but you will have the benefit of their advice, and that's how the process works. So what we're coming to you tonight is asking if this committee would refer this topic to the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission can just take this up on their own, but we thought it would be much better if you, as a committee, would refer this to them if you're so inclined to ask them to take this up. Obviously, they'll be supported by the legal department through that process, and then their recommendations would come back to you. So just looking for your referral to the Planning Commission. And then just to close out kind of what we're doing in the meantime is the areas, we have designated certain areas which, because they have safety issues surrounding them, so I've said go ahead and start enforcing our existing code in those areas, but not in other areas that don't have such issues, and we'll wait then for this code amendment process to make a final decision on, for the council to make a final decision on what the code should be. So that's how I've directed staff, and then what I'm hoping for from you tonight is a referral to the Planning Commission of this topic.
And unpaved shoulders. Okay. So we're defining right of way, including parking strips, planting strips, and unpaved shoulders. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is our existing sign code.
Okay.
So all that I've done here is take portions of the existing sign code and said, resume enforcing our existing sign code in these areas.
Okay.
Continue not to enforce in these other areas.
Okay.
Where it's likely that, where it's possible that you will ultimately designate that those would be areas, free speech areas that that you would continue to allow those, that you would change the code to allow those.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Let's open up the conversation. Mr. Councilmember Murphy or Mr. Murphy.
Either one. So a couple things. If it's able to be shared with council, or maybe it would be so in an executive session at some point, we'll love to see the analysis that helps us understand like how we have arrived here, but also how the current areas of non-enforcement, how those came to be. I know that there's certain like plant parking strips have certain state protections for campaigns or other things, or maybe that's some of the outdated information that we have. Because I know I'm kind of going off of some of what we all experienced during a political campaign. So that's one thing. So be able to have eyes on some of that analysis would be great. The second thing is I would hope that Planning Commission could take this up pretty expeditiously, given that we are heading into a season and where there is going to be need for First Amendment protections, political campaigns of the like. I think candidates across our area are going to want to know what's acceptable and what's not. So I think that would be great to move that process maybe a little bit faster, or at a speed where we can get some resolution. And I guess the last thing would be more of a housekeeping issue. But if residents have come to me asking where can they collect signs that maybe have been taken down, if we could provide that clarity to folks so they can come retrieve them at some point, I'm sure that would be appreciated by residents.
Please, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, great input, and we'll get that analysis to you. Obviously, that analysis will be going to the Planning Commission as well in terms of, what the assessment and the guidance is. So absolutely, we'll get that to you. I did receive that guidance verbally and acted on the verbal guidance, but it will be in writing very shortly because it needs to be to get to the Planning Commission. So absolutely, we'll get that to you. The second thing is, that's a great suggestion. We'll put out some information on where signs can be retrieved. Just for your information and for the information of anyone watching tonight, they're available here at City Hall. We've just, we're collected them in a location here inside of City Hall, and they're available for anyone to pick up. Just need to make a call. They can just call the general line at City Hall, and we'll have somebody available to help them pick it up. But we'll look to put that out in some communication as well.
Great, thanks.
Councilmember Johnson.
That said, I'm concerned about how much storage there would be for how long. We would be keeping them for 10 years. And if so, what's this pile going to look like? So, I think that one of the things to consider in terms of an ordinance be how long are we going to keep these and where? I don't know if City Hall would be able to store those that are kept for a period of, I'm going to make up a number, but let's say 3 months, or what if it was a year? So, for now, sure, figuring out what it's going to be. But at some point, I do think that figuring out how long we're going to store them and where would be something for the Planning Commission to look into. I will have another thing, but go ahead.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, so absolutely. So given the fact that things are changing and in flux, we'll hold on to signs for a little while. But the general practice, which I would assume we go back to once we have new rules, is they hold them for about a week and then they're destroyed. So we don't store signs. It's been a regular thing for the entire history of the city that, well, the entire history of yard signs, I suppose, which is that yard signs are picked up regularly on a almost daily basis because they're outside of our sign regulations. City staff pick them up, they hold them for a few days, and then they're destroyed. So I would assume we would go back to that once we get to permanent new regulation on that. But in the meantime, yeah, we'll probably hold on to them for a while just because of the state of flux. Hopefully that I managed to answer your points.
Yeah.
I just have a quick question, Mayor. So again, time is money. Do we make any effort? So if we're picking up yard signs or if we're picking up signs on the parkway and we discover that they belong to a certain individual, do we make an effort to contact that individual to say, hey, just want to let you know the sign doesn't fall within our regulation. We're picking up the sign. If you want to come and retrieve it, you can retrieve it within the next week or so. Please, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, we don't do that. We don't have the staff for that. We pick the signs up, we hold them. If we don't hear from them, then after about a week, we destroy them. It's just, we just don't have the staffing to do that kind of work. Our laws are not hard to find. They're online. If someone's breaking the law, okay, breaking the law is perhaps a strong way to say it. If they're breaking our code,
Right.
They should know that. We're already holding on to it for a week for them, or so. So, yeah, we don't make an effort to locate them. We just don't have the staff.
Thank you. Councilmember Murphy.
Yeah, so just to put a finer point on the follow-up, I think we've done a good job of outlining pretty clearly where signs are no longer, or maybe they're not permissible and enforcement will occur. I think perhaps a little more clarity on where they are permitted, and I think parking strips, planting strips, unpaved shoulders, perhaps like what is that, just from the regular plain speak, what is
Yeah.
that? Just to make sure that we're crystal clear on where things are allowed, so that we have just as much clarity on where they can go and where they can't go. I think would be great to just to provide that clarity, so our residents aren't unknowingly or unwittingly like violating code.
And I'm going to let you respond. I'm just going to make a quick point, Mr. Mayor. So when I ran for office for the city council, and I think you and I had this conversation, I had a heck of a time finding the regulation on the, for signage. And so I was very conservative in terms of where I put my signs that, without a doubt, I knew they wouldn't be confiscated or collected, however you want to say that. So, I think that once we do come up with the fine points and we do come up with a new code, if we, again, to Councilmember Murphy's point, we're 2 months away from, the primary. So, hopefully we can get this information out pretty quickly and, make it available, maybe on the website or something. So please, Mr. Mayor.
So great minds think alike. I had the same thought. This is the result of as much work as I could get done. The simple answer is that listing where they are allowed would take pages and pages. It turns out that what I thought was a simple question of tell me what is the right of way, what is the definition of right of way, turns out to be a very complex and lengthy answer, which surprised me. I thought it would be more simple, like planter strips or, turns out it's not. So what I wanted to do was stick with, so what I did not want to do was get out ahead of the rulemaking process or the city council with direction from the mayor. I didn't want to be creating new law. So what I stuck with is what was in our existing code and just said, these parts of the code we're now going to enforce, and this part of the code we will continue not to enforce. But I didn't think it was really appropriate just as the mayor to expand and start defining these areas in a way that existing rules did not, as well as the fact that that would have been a very complex process. So I did try to do that. We are absolutely willing to take calls from folks and try to help them understand, hey, can I put it in this location? And we'll absolutely take that call and help them through that. One other thing to know is that much of the city is governed by the Ridge Owners Association. And their rules are more restrictive than these rules. So areas that the city code permits signs to be in many cases, the ROA either limits or in some cases prohibits them despite the city rule permitting them. And those rules are more, well, they don't trump the city, but they operate in addition to the city because those are enforced via their deed restrictions and so forth that property owners have. So, so I would just be careful that to the extent that folks are listening to this or that you talk to folks, that they understand that just because the city says this location is okay, they need to further check if they're in the jurisdiction of the ROA, whether there's a further restriction that they need to be aware of.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yeah, and on top of that, I was just going to bring up the ROA. That is where, well, and other HOAs that are in the city, since that's not the only one, where the content does matter is with regard to homeowners associations. That's where that is specified, but not for cities. So that's just a nuance to the process. Something that is on my mind that becomes concerning to some degree with regard to the idea of what kinds of content can be allowed and to what degree can that be regulated. In one scenario, one could imagine that if we have the entire shoulder all the way down Snoqualmie Parkway from one end to the other as being open season for whatever signs you want, then it starts to become sort of an endless, line of hundreds plus signs for every sort of company that you could think of under the sun that wants to get their free advertising out there. And I'm just wondering, this is something for the planning commission to figure out, as to what degree do we want to actually restrict that just a little bit in whatever becomes the final version of this. Because any location where they can be put, they end up. And if it is made to be explicitly permissive, then I'm afraid of that becoming quite a long stretch of an awful lot of advertising signs that I just don't think that our residents would really want. And it's not something that I see in other cities. So I don't know. I'm just curious how that could work. And that's something for the planning commission to talk about.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, so we'll make sure, and assuming you refer this to the planning commission, we'll make sure that they consider topics like that.
Yeah.
I think you're perhaps thinking in particular of Councilmember Sean Sundwall, who did place his signs every few feet and is quite a thing to behold. So, but yeah, all of that absolutely will be referring to them and asking them to take up on your behalf, and then we'll be part of the conversation. So just would encourage you to remember that you only have 35 minutes left in your meeting. You have some other items that I think are pretty meaty for you to get to. But hoping that you'll take the action of referring this from this committee to the Planning Commission.
Yeah, I'm going to make a quick comment, come right to you, Councilmember Johnson. Yeah, I guess the only challenge I see with this kind of going forward, Mr. Mayor, is that so we're 2 months away from the primary, and then we go into heavy signage, late September for the general election, and just so that everyone's aware, how do I want to say this? I like where we are right now with this until we, get a larger code in play. I think the challenge would be if things substantially change for the general election. So let's say that Planning Commission, we don't get the full code in until September. And then the code changes in September for the general election, and people are still operating under kind of this idea of what the code is. Does that make sense? Please, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, it makes sense. I'd be very surprised if it plays out like that. First off, the city will continue to do what we have in past years, which is during election season, we will defer to the state guidance, which is what we've done for years and years and years. And so we will absolutely do that as we always have. So those rules will continue to operate during election season. And then I would just remind you that any ultimate change in our code is actually under the city council's control. That would be something you would do. And obviously you could pick effective dates and you could pick dates at which you pass that. So actually you have the control over the ultimate change. But in the meantime, I would expect us and I plan for us to continue to do what we've done in past years and defer to the state guidance on during election season.
Well answered. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Councilmember Johnson.
Yeah, I think that I'm ready to refer this to the planning commission and let them take the next turn of the crank at it.
Yeah, likewise, second that.
All right, sounds good. We'll refer it to the Planning Commission.
If I could,
please.
Chair, then with that, I will turn this meeting over to our associate planner. And as a reminder, I will be leaving. I think that the matters that are about to come in front of you, typically these matters result in advice at this meeting to the chair, but do not typically result in a decision made at this meeting, but usually or quite often soon after it, but not, it's not normal that would be decided at this meeting. For those that aren't familiar with the process, if you want us to go over the process, we're prepared to do that, but otherwise we can dig into the meat of these requests. As a reminder, the process is that under the Snoqualmie City Code, the decision whether to grant these deviations
Mhm.
rests with the chair of this committee solely.
I feel good about the process. I want to defer to my two other council members. Any questions on the process in itself?
Nope, I'm straightforward and I'm fine with it.
All right. Yeah, let's move forward, Associate Director.
Thank you, Chair. I know,
Oh,
you just
sure.
promoted me. Thanks so
Sorry.
much.
Sorry, Chair, I do have something.
I'm sorry. One question from the committee, please, Mr.
Because it is actually kind of high level about the processes, that this, it seems to me, would be one of the kinds of things that could be thought of as a quasi judicial process. Is that right? That this is something where we kind of look at, here's what the code says, here's what the request or what the application says, and then whether they match.
Oh, thank you. I was just gonna bring you right into the conversation, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair. Councilmember Johnson, it could be. However, there's a specific resolution on this that was passed that clearly states kind of the process of this deviation. Does that answer your question
Well,
on what you're looking for?
Please continue.
yeah, so I guess sort of like, well, I just don't like the way it looks. You know, kind of being something that potentially could be concerning. I don't know.
Eh,
Please.
And the resolution outlines a minor modification for the way it looks. So you would make the determination based off of that. And Andrew, if you don't mind, you can actually pull up what the resolution that kind of outlines the duties of this committee and the chair and what he's signing off on, if that'd be helpful.
Did you have a, yes, absolutely. And I'm so sorry. I want to get your title correct. Is it Associate Director?
Associate Planner.
Associate Planner. I just promoted you. I'm trying.
I know you did. I appreciate it.
Associate, thank you so much, Associate Planner. Please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, just to add on to.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Robert, what he was kind of the process here. So this is a process that is kind of outside of our code. So all of Snoqualmie Ridge was authorized and approved through a master plan development, where instead of the code kind of being our guiding document, the development agreement is the guiding document. So what Andrew is working on pulling up is the resolution approving the development agreement for Snoqualmie Ridge 2, and that outlines specific processes for modifying the development standards that were approved by council for Snoqualmie Ridge 2. And it specifically grants kind of this approval authority to Community Development Services, and then their decision is in concurrence with the chair of this committee. So it's, I think, could be considered quasi-judicial. The way it's written is it's an administrative decision that is kind of done through coordination with our council committee.
Councilmember Murphy.
So are we talking about just getting into the actual packet? Like, is this a Snoqualmie Ridge 2 property an issue or not? Because I didn't think it was, but I could be mistaken.
So there are two separate applications that we're going to be looking at tonight. The first is for Microconics. They're within Snoqualmie Ridge 1, the business park. The second is for the Snoqualmie Valley Hospital. They're located in Snoqualmie Ridge 2.
Got it.
And the development agreements for both are similar in nature. Snoqualmie Ridge 2 essentially adopts the agreement for 1 as modified for the different types of land uses that were projected within that area.
Got it. So the process applies for both, not just the Snoqualmie Ridge 2
Yeah.
property. Got it. Okay.
Yes, please.
And I will say in the process, it's not codified anywhere, but in speaking with the mayor and when he was on committee, the past practice of the city has been the chair of community development. As you will notice in this resolution, community development actually had a different name. It was a different committee. both of the Ridge one and then the same development area that the first property is in followed the same practice. I also was working with the city attorney to try to find a more concrete explanation and where this was codified, but it actually comes down to this resolution that Allison did the background on to find the past precedent for it.
Thank you very much. Please continue.
All right, with that, I'm going to jump into our first deviation request. I'm going to go ahead and share. All right, so for our first sign deviation, this business is located at 34935 Southeast Douglas Street within the Snoqualmie Ridge Business Park. The existing office building is approximately 40,000 square feet, and Microconics will be the sole tenant within the building. The applicant is proposing to install one wall sign affixed to their existing facade. The wall sign is approximately 64.55 square feet in area, and it will be illuminated. The sign features the business name as well as the business logo. The maximum sign area permitted by right by the Snoqualmie Ridge 2 development standards is 27 feet. The maximum allowed permitted through the sign deviation process is 102 feet. As proposed, the sign is within that maximum threshold allowed per the deviation.
What was the maximum again? 100?
102 square feet.
And they're proposing 27.
64.55. So 27 is what's allowed outright without the deviation.
Okay.
So they're exceeding that
Okay.
with their 64
So
square
with the
foot fee.
deviation, it's the 64. Okay.
So staff is recommending approval of the above deviation. We do have a few conditions of approval that we would recommend go along with the request, just making sure that they receive approval of a sign permit, approval of a building permit, and then if they are to change or modify their sign design, that they would need to come back through this process for approval.
Okay. Did you have a Councilmember Johnson?
Yeah, I was curious about the sign illumination and how that could be defined in some way that is concrete. Because, you know, the dark sky is an important thing to the city of Snoqualmie. It's something that, well, the valley as a whole, Snoqualmie Valley as a whole, something that is greatly prided. And I would hate for it to just like somehow become this weird beacon that's totally out of place. So I'm just wondering how could that be defined in some way? I'm sorry, I'm not leaning into the mic. How could that be the brightness of the sign be defined in some way to meet the recommendation of the department?
Yeah, so that's a standard condition that kind of we put on illuminated signs. It comes out of the code. However, we don't have specific standards for like foot candle or wattage, that kind of thing. So we don't really have a metric for ensuring that. It does, because it's a condition of approval, it gives us the opportunity to, upon final inspection, review if the sign is egregiously illuminated. Yeah.
Councilmember Murphy.
I was looking through the packet and maybe I'm just missing something completely here, but I'm confused about page 11, the Puget Sound Clean Air Agency approval and how that's related to this project, or if there's something within the components of the sign that require this sort of regulatory sign off.
Not to my knowledge.
Maybe it was included in by mistake.
Was included by the
Okay.
applicant. So yeah.
Got it. Okay. Because I saw that and I was like, I was a little bit confused as to why this is here, but figured I'd ask.
See other questions? Please continue.
So that's the recommendation for Microconics. We will await your decision.
Is it possible, I'm sorry, can we go back to the the slide we had before?
Do you want this one?
The condition slide,
Okay.
yes. Is it possible to send that out? Because it's not in the packet. At least I didn't see it in the packet.
It's part of the staff report. It should be on the final page before the like sign off.
Okay, in the packet? I didn't see it in the packet, unless I'm missing something.
Take a look.
Unless that's it on, is that it on page 117? No, that's the that's the limited enforcement. Effective immediately, so that's not the same. Yeah, I don't think it's in the packet.
A lot of pages in this packet. It was my understanding it was included in the packet, but let me just see as I.
And if not, are you able to just send it to the committee?
So the staff report is item 2 of the packet.
Two?
So we have agenda, we have the minutes from the prior meeting. Staff report starts on page 3,
Okay, so.
Yep, I see it now.
and then conditions of approval are on page 5.
Oh, okay, I see it. Thank you. Thank you.
No problem.
A lot of pages in the packet.
Yeah.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yeah, I think that the staff's recommendation on the scaling of the sign makes a lot of sense to me. There's kind of a space in the facade of the building that looks like it's intended for a sign. It's kind of like if you got one of those pieces of furniture that has a space for a TV, and then you get one that's really tiny. That's kind of what the code would be kind of saying by right, and it would look a little awkward. And then the illumination was my main concern. And yeah, they're not having the sign spilling over into the I don't know what the proper term of this is, but like the sky space above or something weird like that. So obviously this is something that the chair takes. So this is just sort of my feedback as a member of this committee is I think that the staff report satisfies my concerns.
Thank you, Councilmember Johnson. Councilmember Murphy?
Yeah, having looked at the staff report, I think it seems quite reasonable here and concur with its recommendation to approve.
Okay, thank you both. We can move to the next sign.
Alrighty. Now that we warmed up with an easy one,
Gonna throw us the sinker.
we're gonna do something a little harder. All right, so since we talked about the process for the sign deviation at the beginning of our presentation, I kind of want to wrap around and talk a little about the difference between the requests that we just saw for Microconics and then the requests that we're about to see for the Snoqualmie Valley Hospital. So the Snoqualmie Valley Hospital was approved as a modification to the Snoqualmie Ridge 2 development agreement and development standards. At the time of that approval, specific development standards for the hospital weren't designated, other than that they had to be generally consistent with the standards for business parks within Snoqualmie Valley 1. I provided the resolution that approved the hospital modification. That's Resolution 907. And within that resolution, it gave the city specific authority to create at the time of, or not create, but to work with the hospital at the time of development approval on certain design standards, specifically standards for signage. So this one's a little different in that it doesn't necessarily meet what's prescribed in our existing development standards for permitted signage, but we are at least given a process for how we go about approving. So this is a minor modification to those development standards, and those minor modifications do go before this committee and are approved by our chair. So with that, I'll get into kind of the specifics of the deviation that they're asking for. So the first deviation that they are requesting is a deviation for the number of wall signs that are permitted under the business park standards. So within the business park, tenants are allowed up to 2 wall signs, one primary sign that can be a maximum of 27 square feet, and then a secondary sign that is allowed to be a maximum of 10 square feet. The hospital is proposing 5 wall signs, 3 of which include their business name as well as their logo that will be located above each of the entrances to the hospital, and then 2 of which are the sign Bs, that just features their logo that'll be located high up on kind of the upper stories to allow visibility from the neighboring right-of-way. Individually, these signs are below the maximum threshold that is allowed within the development standards. So same as how the last sign met that maximum threshold, these individually meet that maximum threshold. It's just the number that they're proposing exceeds what we would typically see for an individual business entity. And their signs, it is provided in a staff report. In the staff report, table 1 lists the signs that they're requesting and then the sizes, but they generally range between 30 square feet and 63 square feet. So the second deviation is for their proposed monument signs. The existing Snoqualmie Ridge standards don't specifically address ground-mounted monument signs, and neither does the city's code. We do have examples up on the ridge for monument signs. It's my understanding that they were previously allowed within the business park, and then those standards were amended. So we do see them up there. They're generally around 6 feet or below 6 feet. We do have a couple instances of signage that's around 12. So our own city wayfinding signs are around 12 feet. And then the hospital's existing sign that's in the location of C1 on the screen is also 12 feet. Their current proposal, they are introducing 2 20-foot signs located along Snoqualmie Parkway, that's C1 and C2, and then 1 15-foot sign located along Southeast 99th Avenue, that's sign B. The remaining internal signs will range between 6 feet and 12 feet, depending on where they are on the site. And the primary purpose of the sign is for wayfinding into and around the campus. So I can pull up some closer images in a second here. We can kind of see what they look like. They do include Snoqualmie Valley Hospital, the logo, and then they have directional signage to where they can find the entrances and the building or the emergency department.
Quick, sorry, go ahead, Councilmember Jones.
For C1, just my concern is about the visibility for the cars going through and stuff. How big did you say the sign is that's currently there?
12 feet tall.
And that's what they're also proposing is?
They're proposing a 20-foot tall sign.
Okay, so this would be substantially larger.
Correct.
And remind me again, C2, what are they proposing?
That is also 20
20
feet.
feet, okay, okay. So I live very close to this location and just kind of looking at, I mean, so first of all, we're talking Snoqualmie Valley Hospital, right? I know anytime I have to go to the hospital, there's a lot of anxiety. If I'm going there for myself or unfortunately, having to visit a family member or a friend, there's a lot of anxiety. So I can definitely understand wanting to have the signage large enough where people can see it, quite frankly. I know personally of a story where a resident who's been a resident who lives on the Ridge, who's been on the Ridge nearly since inception, made a wrong turn into the hospital. So, I mean, I definitely understand the logic behind it. Also, too, where that C2 is, there is elevation. So if you're driving, I guess that'd be west on the parkway, you have to go up elevation. And so again, I can see the reason for wanting to have the 20-foot sign there, because there would be a grade that, again, if you're coming from 202 or, and coming down the parkway or headed west on the parkway, yeah, you'd want to see that sign to know that, especially if you don't know where you are, you're not familiar where the hospital is located, that the hospital is there and you're coming up on it, right? And I think that will be a right-hand turn at some point once it's operational. Is that correct? Okay. Councilmember Johnson, sorry, Councilmember Murphy?
Yes, that was the question I had in terms of C2. You'd be able to access that entrance both bidirectionally from the parkway, or is it only coming as you're going down towards 90?
It's my understanding, and please correct me if I'm wrong, it will only be, so again, if you're headed west on the parkway, you can make a right-hand turn, but ultimately, and I'll defer to you, but my understanding is that they're going to put some kind of physical median there where you won't be able to
You can't make
a
a
left-hand turn
Okay.
if you're headed, well, see, I guess, yeah, if you're headed east, you won't be able to make the left-hand turn. So that's my understanding.
Got it.
Councilmember. Yeah, so it'll be protected that it's only a right-hand turn. Is that correct?
I am not familiar with the traffic plan on this intersection. Are you guys with the hospital? Do you, you're here in the perfect amount of time.
The question's coming up. So looking at potentially where sign C2 would be, so we're looking at the parkway headed west and headed east. The question is, once it's operational, if you're headed west, there'll be that right-hand turn. Okay. If you're headed east, my understanding, there would ultimately be a physical median in the road where you wouldn't be able to turn left if you're headed east.
Dick is our project
Oh,
manager.
okay.
And I'm Nicole, I'm the director of PR and marketing and overseeing the sign project.
And you guys are welcome to approach the dais so you can be on.
Yeah.
Yes,
mic.
please.
Yeah, you can.
Yes, if you could. So for the record,
Sure,
thank you.
yeah.
Yeah, officially for the record.
No problem. Yes, so from our understanding, there will be a median place so that left turns will not occur out of driveway where C2 is at. It would just be those right-hand turns.
If you're headed west on the parkway. Okay.
Correct.
Your question answered?
Yeah, that's good. I think the wayfinding is important, right? For the
Yeah.
reasons that you just described. And I guess the second question is, will the plan to have like vegetation cut back so that the sign will be visible in both directions for C1 actually? So C1, is it like either way on the parkway, will you be able to see like the arrows that are there?
It's just one-sided, so it's
Okay.
more that approach as you're going up. the
Got it.
parkway.
Okay.
That's the reason that we have the two signs is because it really doesn't allow for front and back signage.
Mhm.
And those signs are pretty close together too. But C1 we will be cutting that back, I think by about 15 feet. Is that correct, Dick? So we can put that curbing in and that ADA sidewalk down to the corner.
Mm.
And so there will be some vegetation that's removed, but just enough to create that corner.
Understood. Yeah, that's good clarification. I wasn't sure like what direction the signs were for, so appreciate that.
Yeah.
Councilmember Johnson?
Well, just be honest, that 20 feet sounds like a very large sign in that location. Yeah, it seems like that would be something that would be, well, unless I'm wrong, that would be different from other wayfinding signs on the ridge. Are there any other wayfinding signs on the ridge right now that are that tall?
No, not to my
Do you happen
knowledge.
to know what the tallest one is?
I believe it's our wayfinding signs at 12 feet,
Yeah.
or the hospital's.
So you imagine this is almost twice as tall as any of those. Uh, it sounds really big. And I'm wondering is there a reason it needs to be 20 as opposed to say 15?
Right. So as you're navigating that diverging diamond and the complexities of that interchange, and you're also navigating the elevation change, our traffic study supported the height of these signs because of those reasons. And having, when you're trying to find emergency department care, that's the really important thing and what sets us apart from other areas in Snoqualmie and why we don't quite fit into your code. Because we really want to make sure people are getting the right care at the right time. And in our study, we found that this was really needed to be seen from a little bit away before they approach. The turns are quick. You can't turn into both directions as easily. And so navigating the interchange and then the elevation guide is why we chose the signs that high. When we were doing our walkabout, we also had a challenge seeing those 12-foot signs at C1. There was a car coming in and you really have to be able to even see over those cars, the vehicles that are turning in the interchange. And so that's why when you look at the pictures of the signs, the directionals really aren't even starting until pretty high up. And that's just so that people can see them from far away. And the cars that are in the intersection also aren't impeding any of the language on them.
I'll just make a quick comment and then we'll come right to you, Councilmember Murphy. So kind of the way I'm looking at this, Councilmember Johnson, is that you kind of have two different approaches to the hospital, right? So you have the approach from the new intersection, so from the east, and then you have the approach from the west, we'll just say from the city side. And both have elevation, right? So you're coming up from the intersection, you're kind of looking up to the hospital, right? You need that sign, right? Because you're going to have trucks coming through there, the double dump trucks. On the other side, you have elevation that literally you can't see at the top of the hill. So you need that signage, right? For people to be able to see that, okay, this is the turn into the hospital.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where my mind is.
Both of those elevation gains are really tricky. So when you're coming down, you're at that stoplight at Jacobia, you can't see the sign until you're already over the crest. And then you have very minimal time to be able to see it, understand where you're going and turn in. And so this isn't about advertising for the hospital. This really is just about getting people to the right point of care at the right time so that we don't have to delay any of their care or get them to the wrong building.
I'm going to go to Councilmember
Yeah.
Johnson. We'll come right to you. Councilmember Johnson, please.
It's fine. Go ahead.
You sure?
Yeah.
Okay. Councilmember Murphy.
So if folks miss the turn, is there another sign, like a sign as you're going towards 90 that indicates the hospital's right there? Or is there, I don't remember exactly if there's existing signage that they could see, or I guess will the back of the sign note that the hospital's there? Just trying to get that clarity on that.
Yeah, on the Parkway, just going down the hill, you'll only see C2 and then C1 won't have anything on the back of it.
Got it.
And so there is going to be that stoplight put in by end of October. We think it will be functional. We're hoping that will have a big blue H on there as well.
Okay.
So that could slow people at some time to turn them around, but it's really just a really quick, you
Yeah.
miss it. I mean, if you all live here and you probably miss our sign all the time and it just comes up really quick, especially in those critical moments where people are in crisis and they're worried, their family member's not doing well. Those kinds of moments can be really, really hard to navigate this stuff.
Yeah, I agree. I think that's key because it's like, oh, they missed it. Now they're on now they're on the freeway by accident, you know? So
I have to turn
Yeah.
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 So that sounds good. And the last thing I'll say is I think like the color, like I had similar concerns that Councilmember Johnson, but actually seeing the colors, I was like, okay, this isn't a billboard. This isn't like some sort of like big, gaudy thing. This is wayfinding for emergency services. And I think I'm comfortable with the scale and given the concerns around being able to see the arrows, I think this makes sense.
Councilmember Johnson.
Yeah, we're running out of time here. I'll just say real quick.
Since
Then
we
I get-
started a little late, we'll go a little bit over, please.
Okay, well, anyway, so then if you are in that moment, what proportion of people know that Snoqualmie Valley Health means that's the hospital? If that's what it's about, then shouldn't it be like a giant sign that says hospital?
Well, we felt that letting people know the campus location and all that we have on that campus was really important. And then we did call out that bright red for emergency and the purple for urgent care, which is consistent with what's on our campus.
Councilmember Johnson?
So then that's what those lower signs are. Those tell you that's where the emergency room is, and that's where the hub is. The other part above is the logo for Snoqualmie Valley Health.
Right. And I think if
So
you're,
what do you get out of that extra height
I think,
above the direction of here's the emergency room?
I think if you're Googling emergency department near me and it pops up Snoqualmie Valley Health, then you could just be looking for that Snoqualmie Valley Health, and emergency is also there in support. They're in support of each other.
Do you have a comment? Councilmember Murphy?
No further comment or concern. I think that's the name of the campus, right? Where there's both traditional hospital services and the new services that are coming online, right? So like it seems to me like having it say hospital doesn't account for the other elements of the campus. So again, yeah, I'm comfortable kind of with the layout here.
Just a quick question on C2. So if anyone's like me, I miss turns all the time, even though the sign's there and, it's all there. Is there anything, will there be anything on the back of C2? So if I'm oblivious and I'm so anxious and I drive right through the intersection, will there be that kind of last sign where on C2 that it'll definitely have the signage for traffic going west, but for traffic going east, would there be something on the back of it?
The way that we were angling them, we didn't think that it would be feasible to have it two-sided.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. Just a question. Did you have a follow-up, Councilmember Johnson? Okay. Councilmember Murphy? Okay. Did you have any other points to add?
No additional points. The staff report does provide the kind of options for approval with modification or denial of the request. So I'll work with you over the next week or so on getting those documents finalized and out to our applicants.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. We appreciate your partnership and consideration.
Thank you. Thank you for attending the committee meeting this evening. Okay. So there being no further business to come before this committee, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We adjourned at 7:01.